Hello, I'm Quinny. Welcome to the channel. In this video, guys, we are going to be kicking off the MLS 2021 preview on SoRare to end them all. I've got men, I've got myths, I've got legends. I'm calling them the Avengers. I've got the 5 of the most knowledgeable guys in the MLS kind of sphere in the SoRare community coming onto the channel to walk through every club preview possibly imaginable. This episode today is going to be a little bit different to kick things off. It's just going to be me and Surface, and we're going through our galleries, having a wee chat about what preparations we've made over the last few months for the season ahead, what our expectations are, what divisions we'll be looking to tackle, uniques, super rares, D4, D3, D2, all that chat. After this video goes out, we've got 5 more episodes to go out, and we'll have our star-studded lineups in every episode, going through all the MLS clubs, talking about the cards that you've been buying, cards you've been eyeing up, and the ones you've been on the fence about. I hope you enjoy this one, guys. Make sure you just like and subscribe and share and retweet, all that good stuff, and let's get stuck into it. So, joining me today, we've got the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend. I have said that on occasion before, but the man who's joining us today is probably most befitting of, and that is Surface Data Missile. Surface, thanks a lot for joining me, mate.
Oh, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here. I'm kind of nervous to be on your show.
Oh, we'll get the nerves knocked out of the park really easily. We're going to be basically starting off. We're going to go through some gallery chat, talk about the season coming up, where we kind of see our teams and cards being the most successful and useful, and yeah, we'll just kind of run it from there. So I've got your gallery actually up on my screen. See when I look, see whenever I do look at galleries like yourself who are, you know, very strong and very deep and very well spread, the first category I always go to, believe it or not, is the super rares rather than the uniques. And the super rares, you know, like you've got some absolutely tasty ones here. I'm very jealous of, I must admit. Surface. So you've got the t-shirt on for anyone who can't see it, but we've got a fair clutch of LAFC super rares in here. Guys like Rossi, Segura. I was going to say Zimmerman. It's just because the picture keeps throwing me off, because I think that's the LAFC picture, isn't it? Still, but
Probably.
Atuesta and a few other guys as well. So you've got a really stacked gallery coming into the season. You've probably been a bit like me in the sense that I've been waiting since December for the season to come back, and it's just time cannot move fast enough. And I've got your uniques up now. So we've got 3 uniques. We've got Castellanos. I'll ask you about that in a second. An Artur and a Ryan Hollingshead. So how are you feeling going into the season then, Surface, with that complement of cards that you've got?
I mean, honestly, I'm pretty excited. I think I should be able to, be quite competitive in 2, 3, and 4, and we'll see about 1. So I have acquired Tati and Avela recently, and my plan is to, play them with a super rare goalie and Artur and Hollingshead, if everyone's healthy for a D1 team, if the matchups look right. And then if anybody is out that week, those 3 uniques, then I'll probably move 2 uniques into D2s elsewhere, since they're all kind of top 10 at those positions. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be, I don't really play in D1s I don't play in D1s at all in any other regions. So it'll be interesting to see how it works out. And, it's kind of an experiment. And I feel like it's about as much as I really want to commit right now, because I just don't want to have lots of resources tied up in lots of different lots of different uniques. And if it doesn't work out with one of them, I can always move to into the D2s in a pretty effective manner, since they are good at their respective positions.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I'm standing here as far as going into the season looking at D1s. D2 is wide open. And it's the question position for me, in my opinion, is really going to be forward. Forward isn't as strong a position in MLS as it is obviously in, say, Champion Europe. And so it's really kind of about, who's going to be effective. When does it make sense to play a rare in D2 instead of a super rare? I mean, honestly, I'm hoping that Polito, really works out well. He's, when he played last year, he was a top forward, but is he going to play for Mexico this year? Is he going to be healthy? These are big questions going into this season. KC looks like they're going to be a pretty good team again, and they're going to have lots of shots. They're going to have chances to score. After him, Busco was pretty solid, and he was better at the second half of the season, or the last third of the season, once they kind of got their full complement back. I mean, he was definitely playable. I did have Zardes up until recently. I traded him away, and we can talk a little bit about that because that was consciously when we get into the team previews.
Yep.
But I mean, of course, I can always slide in Vela if I'm not playing a D1. Rossi is, obviously a great super rare, but he's kind of my under 23 D2 go-to forward. So we'll see. And of course, as we'll talk about LAFC, who knows if Rossi's going to be around after the summer. Hopefully he is, but it's a big question mark.
Well,
and then as far as my rares go, I mean, I think I'm pretty well rounded. I should be able to just mix and match and poke and hit people here and there as we go along. I did pick up a Joseph going into the off season, so if he goes off this year, I'm ready to go. I have a Vela rare as well, and most of the other top players. So, and then at the midfield position, I feel like that's really the key from MLS. That's where the most solid guys are, and obviously Ladero is where everything starts and stops. So he's going to be my go-to guy. But again, Atuesta, I have high hopes for as long as he stays with LAFC, and whether he goes into U23 D2 or MLS D2 is going to be a big question. I'm excited to see where they go and kind of came on at the end of the season, or could be good bounce back years. So we'll see.
Yeah, well, I was actually noticing that on the kind of makeup of your MLS cards is you're kind of similar to me again in the sense that the highest populated position is midfield. There is a lot of variety, there's a lot of options, there's a lot of choice at a lot of different price points. I totally agree with you on the Rossi situation. I actually think under 23s this year, it's borderline going to be, if you don't have Rossi, you're probably not going to get a prize in some game weeks, because MLS forwards, there's not a wide variety of them that you can rely upon to play week in, week out, as well as getting those big scores and goal contributions. It's quite slim pickings. I'm relying on a super rare Akinola to do some business for me, but I understand how much of a risk that is because his injuries have been there and his form has been sporadic. But somebody like a Rossi seems locked up this year. In terms of your concern on Rossi, let me ask you this as an LA fan. Does the bad loan spell for Brian Rodriguez maybe increase the possibility of holding on to Rossi?
It's tough to say. I mean, it's all about the money. I don't know exactly, if I think they'll be more careful if they loan him out, but I don't really know, to be honest. We'll see. I think it's kind of, I think it depends upon how their other pieces are doing, how they're looking, where they are in the season, when we get to December. I'm not sure, but I'm hoping they keep him for the whole year. And, I'm hoping they come out of the gate firing. They realize they have an amazing top level team like they did 2 years ago, where it's, they're going to be competing for, the top spot. And they decided to just go all in and keep everybody at home. So that's what we're hoping for. The fans are hoping for.
Totally. And then when it came to midfield, the first person you mentioned was Ladero. I'm not, and again, we'll kind of come to this maybe in a bit more detail. I'm not 100% convinced Seattle will be as good as they should be or as good as they normally are. But again, that's the mistake most people make with Seattle, is thinking there's not really much going on this year. Jordan Morris isn't around. Rui Diaz will go away for Copa America, so will Ladero probably. But I don't know. I think if there's going to be a year where Seattle might not achieve their normal kind of status, it might be this year, because without having that Jordan Morris element in the team in terms of another top end player who's contributing to goals and assists that you don't need to worry about in the same respect as you do with the Rui Diaz and with the Ladero. I don't know if they might be missing something come this season, but time will tell. But I really like, as I'm looking through your midfielders, I do like a lot of your guys that you've picked up in midfield are a lot of guys I've been eyeing up. Some of them I have, some of them I don't. Lewis Morgan was a big favourite of mine last year, as well as guys like Busio. I quite like. I've still not got a Busio. Carlos Gil was really good, and Robin Lode, Diego Valeri. You've got some really good ones. The super rare that really jumps out at me that you've got is Keaton Parks, because I think he's probably online for a really, really, really good season this year.
Did you see the news today?
No. He broke his
leg? We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it in the NFC in NYFC preview.
Fair enough.
NYCFC preview.
Keep me.
Yeah, he was someone I watched. I watched quite a bit of New York's games last year, and he just seemed to get stronger. And the scores kind of represented it, but yeah, he has a lot of potential. So
Definitely.
we'll see. Yeah, the Gill I'm excited about. I just won him a couple weeks ago. I've been getting offers nonstop on him.
Oh yeah.
And I mean, he was super. Once he came back, I mean, he was just fantastic. So we'll see. Yeah, it should be good. I mean, I like my original 2018 pause. That was an amazing card to start the year. He kind of petered out a little bit, and we're not going to talk about KC but Busio is really interesting to me. I have been seeing some good, some readings, things that he's just going to be given the reins this year and going to try to play a little bit more offensive role. So I'm excited to see what a little bit more mature, a little bit more a little more wisdom does for him, and how he rates.
Now, see on Busio right now, like I coach, I've got UEFA badges and all that kind of stuff, and see one thing that I always kind of look for, like in the elite football, professional football, when I'm looking for like these youngsters coming through, and this was something I seen in Busio last year, and you might find this a bit, it might come across as a bit trite, okay, but I seen this guy on social media last year. See when Casey were doing well, he was coming off the bench, he was looking good, and the couple of minutes he was getting starts and whatever. Whenever I seen the guy on social media, he came across as like a very confident young guy. And when you look at the age he was at the time, 16, 17, fair enough, he's living the high life. He's probably getting paid decent money. He's probably like a bit of a star wherever he's from, because he's in the first team, and all the rest of it. But confident young players are the ones that excel, guys like, and I'm not putting this guy in the same breath in terms of potential talent, but your guys like Haaland, Mbappe, when all these guys come up through the youth system, they are the most confident people. They believe in themselves, they believe in their ability, and when I see youngsters that have that little glint in their eye, that extra, there's a difference between swagger and being cocky, but when they're that way that you can see they're very self-assured, they know what they're capable of, and they know the work they're putting in, then they're the ones I tend to pay a bit more attention to. Busio was he rang a lot, he ticked a lot of those boxes for me last year, and what I seen of him, and then probably what you're alluding to, getting given the number 10 shirt this year, is a massive statement by the club. It's a massive statement because by all accounts he requested it, so it kind of falls in line with that again. He's confident. He's like, give me the shirt,
Yeah. I mean, it was a tale of two seasons for him. I mean, he started out in the MLS Back Cup, and then he went back down to the USL and played a game, and then came back, and joined the MLS team. So I mean, it looks like in the first 10 games, he didn't play a full 90 once, and he wasn't starting regularly. And then, by mid-season, he just took a hold of the position, and so gained that confidence you're talking about. And I didn't see that much of KC, but from what I saw, I mean, yeah, he's got that creative touch, that's just hard to teach, and super valuable as far as creating chances and making things happen.
Totally. Now, one thing I'll ask you, right, is before I kind of have a wee look at the defenders you're packing, see when you're talking about D2, right, so see the position I'm in, Surface, I've said this on videos, I don't know if they've been out or not by this point, or streams or whatever, right, but see when we had the big kind of boom period between like December and January, Ether was going off, user base was expanding, all the rest of it, I used a lot of that to try and move my gallery up a few levels and try and position myself so that I could try and capitalise on some of these higher divisions, right, and what I tried to do was, what I said to myself is I'm going to try and position myself as if I'm going to attempt to go for D2s, knowing that I might fall a bit short, but the net result of that equals that I've got a good D3 situation. With you talking, right, and me seeing you've only got 3 uniques sitting there for the summer in MLS, how necessary are uniques when it comes to D2, in your opinion?
I think it depends on the region. So in a forum that I'm in on Discord, we had a side channel, and I was actually tracking this for a bit in the beginning of when the format change happened in December and January. And, it's one of those things where it's as you'd expect. It helps, but it really is not necessary. I mean, there were people who were winning in the top 5. I was just looking at the top 5 places with rares. So now it depended on region. So Champion Europe, the uniques help more. And whereas in other regions, they don't help as much. As far as MLS goes, it's hard to say because the uniques are very top heavy amongst a couple of users. And so it's going to depend upon which uniques are being used in D2 and, who who your replacement is, what position, all the regular things. So I just don't have a strong answer. My intuition is that it's not going to be as people expect, in the sense that, like, for instance, let's say we look at 2019 and you look at how good Vela and Joseph were as far as forwards go in comparison to everyone else.
Yep.
So in that scenario, I really feel that, rare Joseph or Vela would have been super viable in D2 because they're just so much better than every other forward. So, if a rare card is viable in D2, that makes everyone's D2 lineups a lot better. You can have a lot more people can have access to a D2. So if there's positional scarcity, in the sense that one or two players are so good that you can really play a rare, in that, I think it opens up the division a little bit. But I really think everything depends upon the next rewards announcement, because that's going to completely change the look of the game and what it's like. I mean, strategies for D2, whether you're going for the podium or just trying to get a card, vary, and whether or not they open up another 5 or 6 spaces in D2, that makes a huge difference. Right? So let's just say maybe they make 11th through 15th, if you place 11th through 15th, you get, 0.15 ETH or something like that, or you get a rare, it's just going to completely change what a viable strategy is. So, hopefully we get that announcement soon.
Yeah, hopefully by the time this is out, definitely.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I want to have a look at your defenders with you, right, is because when I've been kind of arming up for 2021 MLS, right, I kind of really struggle to get past a couple of guys in defence that I look at and think, yeah, I can stick him in most teams, and I really don't need to worry too much about, form fluctuating or even just appearances fluctuating too much. There's not too many, like, really exciting proper top end cards. There's a lot of guys that are, dice rollers. They'll probably play 15 games, maybe 20. They'll probably average 40, maybe 50. There's not that many, like, really top end defenders, I think, this year. Would you agree with that? Or
yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's much more of a roll of the dice, and there's less consistency, it seems like, from year to year to some degree, looking back, especially with a couple of, people no longer around, like Opera, for instance. Yeah. But I think this conversation we can come back to in our preview, because I think there's kind of, there's a couple of teams that, just seem to have, just good defensive pedigree, so to speak, and especially Nashville, which we can go into a bit more. And, it's just, if anything else, just getting the clean sheet is so important. That 10 extra points just makes all the difference. And so, Nashville, I believe, had the most clean sheets last year. Yep. Or was up there for sure. And, it just makes all the difference. So, yeah, my strategy is, try to get guys for good value who basically, are on the teams that are probably going to be in the top 10 defensively. It's tough. There's a couple of out of position players who sometimes can be interesting. There's players who, come up on the wings and try a lot more assists, but, I feel like the game doesn't really score them that great. And in general, like, those guys just are penalized more. It's too much of a penalty for a lost possession for most of the chance creating, left and right back. So I actually like to avoid them because they're less consistent. They're better for, I feel like, for people who are kind of doing more of a lottery team and hoping that guy gets an assist or, somehow. But those are the ones I kind of try to trend away from to some degree. But yeah, we'll see. What's your plans going into this season? You're going to try to play in D2?
Yeah, so I'll pull my gallery up just so I know what I'm talking about, because it's hard to keep track of what I've got and what I've not got these days. But so I've been kind of building towards a D2 situation since, like, December, January. And
it's so hard now that super rares are so expensive.
Well, I almost, so what I can't remember if we started recording or not, but I was trying to get an Eddie Segura super rare for ages. I very recently managed to get a Kessler super rare, because what I was kind of on the fence with, right, was I want to try and go D2 level, right, but do I try and do that in global under 23s and maybe get a wee bit of a hybrid situation? Maybe it's mainly MLS, maybe a European caveat, maybe a Japanese caveat on it, or do I just try and go for the region, wait for the region to open up and then just enter a team in there most of the weeks, whatever. And I'm not too sure still what of those two paths I might try and take, But because of that, I have been more open to getting under 23 like J League players and that kind of thing in the event that maybe the D2, because what I actually foresee in the summer is there's such a in the J League and the MLS, because of a lot of the kind of youth structures that those leagues and countries have, is there's not a real array of talent, proper talent that play in teams under the age of 23, and if they are in Japan and Korea, they are always at risk of being rotated and dropped and all the rest of it. So I think under 23s in the summer is going to be bedlam. You know, I think you'll find guys winning D3s and D2s that, you know, you're really surprised by the actual card content, you know, because there'll be some guys that have a great game week and all of a sudden they've hit 80 points out of nowhere when they normally shoot a 40, that kind of thing. Or a mass DNPs and a goalkeeper. I'm looking at MLS, there is no under 23 goalkeepers really, you know. So you need a J League goalkeeper really, or everyone's going to be running with DNP goalkeepers, which just sounds crazy. But then it becomes a 4-a-side tournament potentially some weeks, and then when it's a 4-a-side tournament, the margins become even thinner.
Yeah, I mean, last year there was quite a few of those. There was some, mostly MLS game weeks, and the U23s, had no goalkeeper, or maybe if Nasal was playing, but it just depends. And yeah, this year I think though, unless there's no J1, I mean, you're going to need a U23 goalkeeper. It's going to be key. So yeah, I would recommend planning in advance for those 5-ish weeks where there's only MLS and then either J1 or K1, as of now, unless, who knows what they're going to do with Euros and everything else. We'll see. But yeah. How do you feel about, I see you have Ronald Mcdonald, Super Rare. How do you feel about him moving over to Cincinnati?
I was a bit gutted because I really like NYC, but as long as, and I was actually saying this with Andrew, but see, as long as Cincinnati know who they've bought in terms of what the kind of player he is, then I'm okay with it. He's not going to defend it for anyone. He's I suspect you know the guy pretty well, but he's a really attacking fullback. He just bombs up and down the line. So as long as they know what they've bought, I'm not really too bothered about the transfer. I'd personally like him to stay at NYC because I've got a soft spot for them. But I'm actually quite bullish on Cincinnati this year. I've got a fairly good feeling about them. I've got a super rare Titan. I've noticed you've got
I see that. Yeah.
So
nice combo.
Yeah, well that happened by luck. I won the Matarita, which was just a bit of fortune. But yeah, so I'll be able to double up on Cincy at the back. I'm going to try and get a Brenner when they come out. I don't expect that to be cheap. I'm not going to pay too much for him. And I think we all have a soft spot in our gallery for Frankie Amaya, if you can get one of him cheap enough. I've not got one, by the way. But yeah, so I'm quite excited about Matarita. My big super rare hope I've got is probably the Barco. Scored a penalty in Champions League last night.
Yeah. Hopefully he doesn't get the yips this year.
Yeah, I'm really hopeful of that as well. I'm quite hopeful the all Gabriel Heinze thing that works out well. And Akinola and Barco were two of the guys I was picking up in early January, late December, with this D2 kind of thing in mind. And I was thinking more U23s because I just think there is going to be a real lack of variety available. And it's like if you don't have the Rossi, if you don't have the Barco, if you don't have the Akinola, if you don't have the Medina, then you've not won this week. So I think I've done okay in that respect. Time will tell, but
we'll see it. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, how it plays out. We can't wait for MLS to start. Cincinnati's first game is against Nashville, so that's actually could be a good test for your Titan Ronald combo right there.
Thanks a lot, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. About to pop up on the screen now some other stuff I've made that you might like if you haven't caught it already. Remember, please do subscribe to the channel. We're going to have 5 more videos coming out previewing the MLS with the most star-studded SoRare MLS cast you could possibly imagine. Stay out of trouble, guys, and I'll see you on the next one.